Uneasy guys, welcome back to the lab. In today's WorldBox experiment, we take a completely barren world, leave it alone for 1,000 years, and see what happens. Something will evolve, something will conquer. But what? As always, we start with the world. This one won't have much. A plain square of soil, a small lake in the center with a crossing just narrow enough that no city can build here, and a blanket of grass over everything. The crossing placement is deliberate. Why will become clear later. Other than that, we're done. Whatever happens next is up to WorldBox. And we're off. Year 1. And the world is already filling in. Ore, stone, trees, berry bushes, flowers, the basics. As the biome fills in, our first inhabitants arrive. Foxes, raccoons, wolves, even flies. Carrying the bloodlust trait. There we go, law-accurate mosquitoes. Rabbits begin populating the grasslands too. I turned up the world speed and let it run. And over the next 100 years, the world had transformed. Dense woodland, palm trees along sandy shores of the lake, and wolves already chasing rabbits across the meadows. It looks like nature had already sorted out the food chain. It was time for phase 2 of our plan. Back to the crossing. Already we can see creatures passing through here. Foxes, wolves, rabbits crossing from one side to another. This is good. This is exactly what we wanted. Now we place the monolith. Any creature passing through has a chance to be caught in its pulse, and if that happens, there's a chance it evolves. A new subspecies, higher intelligence, the ability to build tribes, towns, and civilizations. We don't get to choose who, we just watch the experiment unfold. And not long after, our first kingdom. Wolves, as it turns out. I'm calling this kingdom Canis Prime. Militaristic, basic culture, a reverence for youth. Let's see where that goes. To the north, a rabbit kingdom appears, also militaristic. Militant rabbits. I like it. I'm calling them the Takima. To the southwest, another wolf kingdom, Lupera, who are already plotting to write a new language, defining their own identity in this world. And a fourth, Borealis, wolves again. The wolf kingdoms are multiplying. My guess is with so much space here that nobody's going to be stepping on each other's toes yet. But that won't last. Everything will get crowded, and crowded is going to mean conflict. To the southeast, a rabbit kingdom, but different. These are hoppers, more humanoid than the other rabbit species, which should give them a slight intelligence edge. They also, apparently, really don't like Canis Prime, the price of being the largest kingdom on the map. Meanwhile, the wolf kingdoms keep multiplying, but the hoppers are the only kingdom with humanoid creatures. Let's see if that gives them the edge. Ah, no way, the hoppers are gone. Population of 1 since the start. Never grew, never recovered. The genetic traits that each subspecies gets from the monolith are completely random, maybe bad birthright RNG. Our most promising kingdom, gone before it did anything. Another rabbit kingdom appears. Its only occupant immediately dies. A crab kingdom, Canis, begins, ends, and is replaced on the same spot with another crab kingdom. 7 villages. That might give them a fighting chance, let's see. Meanwhile, among the wolf kingdoms to the west, humanoid wolves are starting to appear. Our creatures are evolving. To the east, near Canis Prime, the crabs reappear. They are trying very hard right now to get a foothold. It's year 150 already and the map is filling out. Wolf and rabbit cultures emerging and dissolving across the grasslands. But 3 powers have found their footing. The wolf packs to the west, Canis Prime to the east, and the Takima rabbits, whose population and army size are quietly actually starting to rival Canis Prime. But there's trouble already. The towns of Woof and Waf are at war. The armies are tiny. It just looks like a couple of dogs having fun in the park from here. But to them, there's a literal war going on. Interestingly, the invading armies won't attack defensive structures directly. Presumably, this is something to do with how evolved they are, which works out poorly for them, given that the towers have no such hesitation. If you guys know what's going on here, please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Look at this wolf here, longbow equipped, picking off targets from a distance. I'll call you Sniper Wolf. Over in Canis Prime, humanoid wolves are becoming the majority, though the older quadruped variants still walk among them. I'm not sure if they will go extinct or if they'll evolve into humanoids as well. Let's keep an eye on that. There's currently a lot of small satellite kingdoms around the edges of the map. Chickens, hoppers, hanging on by a thread. It could go either way for them. 200 years in and things are unraveling. The western wolf kingdoms are still at each other's throats, and Canis Prime has opened a second front, declaring war on Canis. The Crab Kingdom. Ah man, sadly the crabs don't stand a chance. Every crab with a sword is getting piled on. The second crab village falls just as quickly, complete field wipe. Canis Prime absorbs both settlements and keeps moving. To make matters worse, back in the newly conquered crab territory, one wolf has gone completely nuts, just destroying everything around him. The madness trait at work, as if the crablands haven't suffered enough. The hoppers to the north and south are growing, but their armies are still too small to check Canis Prime right now. Down south though, the Phasora Kingdom is quietly becoming something. The hoppers there are on good terms with everyone. Well, everyone except Canis Prime, who they don't trust. Probably smart, to be honest. To the west, the wolf wars drag on. 80 years of continuous fighting. 80. Another Canis king wants war. His kingdom responds, setting their sights on the northern rabbit kingdoms, who have little armies to stand up to Canis. Here comes Howler, one of the generals in the Canis army, ransacking the town. Another village gone. All hail the Canis kingdom. Year 250, and the wolf kingdoms are still grinding each other down. Whoever wins this war may not have enough left to survive what comes after. The year is now 275, and Canis strike again. Takima are next. Wolves tore through rabbit houses. Outnumbered defenders fought back. Lost. A complete face roll. Canis Prime now holds numerous villages, but look at the numbers. Phasora dwarfs them. Population, army size, all of it. My money's on these hoppers. The Western Wolves, meanwhile, remain trapped in their own private nightmare, endlessly turning up and getting shot by defensive structures they can't retaliate against. Then, something odd. Is that a Phasora hopper hunting a Paralis wolf for food? Surprising, except the Phasora are vegetarian. Payback for all the years of wolf oppression, I guess. Leaders from the wolf kingdoms have also been spotted inside Phasora. It's unclear what they're doing here, but it became clearer shortly after. The king of Lupera was found inside Phasora and was murdered. Not a war, a personal dispute. What were they going to do about it? Lupera, conspired against and destroyed. All those resources, all that armor, gone. What a waste. But within a year, a Krablin had moved into the empty village. A newly evolved creature, apparently, just looking for a home. All that gear is his now. King Podex, master of the Forgotten Wolf Kingdom. Year 294, Canis Prime crowned a new king with something to prove. The target? Paralis, the last Western Wolf Kingdom. So consumed by decades of infighting, they hadn't noticed the threat on their doorstep. The Canis army rolled around the bottom of the lake. The wolves fought back, heroically, against their own evolved brethren from across the water, but it was futile. General Howler destroyed their farms, their houses, and took their village. The final Paralis city held on, its inhabitants harassing Canis soldiers like a pack of street dogs outside a scrapyard chasing bicycles. Even a Phasora agent joined in on the carnage. Their grudge against the Western wolves and untrained dogs apparently still very much active. Unlike the primitive wolf kingdoms before them, the humanoid wolves of Canis Prime had no trouble attacking defensive structures. King Podex, now 3 Krablins strong, chilling in his squatter kingdom. But this wasn't the early days anymore. A kingdom that small wasn't gonna last, but I was up for being surprised. Year 300, and the Canis kingdom was already plotting against him. Then, before anything could happen, an internal coup. Someone new to the throne, a brief reprieve for the Krablins. But I spoke too soon. Year 332, Canis declared war on Podex's village. Here they come. Come on, King Podex, fight. Canis had learned to summon tornadoes now. Poor Podex. Stun-locked, surrounded, nothing he could do against a full Canis gang squad. And just like that, he was gone. Phasora had to be watching this. They were the only kingdom left with any chance of stopping what Canis was becoming. Things settled into a new shape. A few large armies, and Phasora swelling at the seams, which puts a new spin on the term. They breed like rabbits. By the year 378, the Canis king was calling for more war. The final wolf kingdoms to the north simply disintegrated. Canis didn't even bother claiming the villages. My guess is their subspecies carried too many negative genetic traits to survive long term, and so evolution just eliminated them. But despite Canis dominance, other species had held on. Krablins flourished to the east, adopting Canis culture and religion. These were the remains of the first crab towns Canis had raised. After the occupation, Krablins had learnt to flourish within them. The monolith still pulsed at the center of the map, still rolling the dice, but the world had filled in around it now, and the odds of an unevolved creature getting pulsed, finding space for a village and surviving long enough to establish anything was genuinely slim. Civilization had closed the window. The Fosora and Canis empires faced each other across a strange strip of abandoned no man's land. And I love what Fosora had built as well. Rabbit-inspired architecture, towers with twin ears, little hobbit holes in the ground to live. Sick. The capital city, that 1,698 population. That's the entire Wolf Kingdom in one village. Year 400 approaching and peace holding. For now, any fight Canis picked here would likely end them. And honestly, given their track record, if I were Fosora, I'd be thinking about a preemptive strike right now while the numbers were still this lopsided. What would you do in Fosora's position? Drop it in the comments. Year 400 came and went, then 450, and the world had gone quiet. No wars, just growth. In the Canis village of Baco, population and army size were both climbing steadily. In year 500, still no conflict. Over 100 years of peace, but something was shifting inside the Canis kingdom. Waf's population was swelling, its military expanding with it. On closer inspection, the dominant species driving this boom wasn't wolf, he was Krablin. The crabs that Canis had conquered and absorbed had become the epicenter of Canis growth. Funny how that works. By the year 650, the mood had changed. Canis cities were fielding larger armies, leaner populations, heavier military weight. The Fosora advantage, which had looked permanent, was starting to erode. The armies kept growing. The peace kept shrinking. And in the year 677, the king of Canis declared war. The first Canis waves hit the northern border, closest point between the two empires. Initially, Fosora soldiers seemed to hold the numbers advantage. Both kingdoms shared the same religion, and they used it. Tornadoes tearing across the battlefield, hundreds of soldiers thrown into the air from both sides. But the first villages were already crumbling, and the army overview told the real story. Canis vastly outnumbered Fosora in active forces. The decades of continuous warfare had given each Canis army deep experience and high kill counts. The Fosora had numbers, they had never used them. Unblooded, peaceful, untested. And it showed immediately. War tore across the border, hundreds of Fosora soldiers charged into the chaos. Tornadoes lashing the horizon, villages burning behind them. The Canis pushed deeper into Fosora heartland. Fosora pushed back, roaming mobs overwhelming the Canis lines, clawing back recently fallen towns. General Pounder, leading one of the Fosora armies, was getting stun-locked. But I've got to hand it to them. They were putting up a serious resistance. I thought this was going to be a face roll for a minute there. By year 700, the only two Fosora cities remained, saved by population size alone. The war ended. Fosora crippled. Canis had a bloody nose, but they'd won ground, and they'd want more. The year 750, and they did. Fosora had rebuilt, but perhaps their origins had caught up with them. Prey animals, genetically, are not built for prolonged war. Perhaps. The initial response was strong. A city reclaimed the moment Canis invaded. Then, the momentum stalled, as if the sheer size of the Fosora army had become unmanageable. Canis forces dripped slowly down the continent, met with swarms of hoppers, but every prolonged engagement seemed to dissolve Fosora numbers faster than they could replace them. Slowly, ground was lost, until the last city fell. The war was over. The world fell under the banner of Canis Prime. Almost entirely, one abandoned village remained unclaimed, occupied by a single civilized rat, who had declared himself king. We'll leave him to it. By the year 1000, strange patches of land still sat empty across the map, unusual for a kingdom that had just spent 3 centuries murdering everyone on it for territory. The monolith still pulsed at the center, still working. These days it seemed to spend most of its time sending Canis villagers into the lake for an involuntary bath. But look closer and something else had happened. A multicultural society had quietly assembled itself underneath the Canis Empire. The dominant culture was Hopper, the dominant religion, Hopper. 2 languages spoken across the kingdom and dozens of subspecies, crab and hopper, living within Canis borders. My presumption is this: once Canis held the center of the map, they held the monolith. And once they held the monolith, their own population became subject to a constant genetic lottery. Every pulse a new roll of the dice. Eventually, somewhere in the lottery, a winning combination emerged, and Canis exploded. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments. The experiment didn't produce one dominant species, it produced one dominant empire built on the top of every species that came before it, the Rat King notwithstanding. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my channel members and lab partners. You guys help keep the lab lights on when the algorithm doesn't go our way. A big thank you. And with that, goodbye.